So I just thought it would be good just to kind of kick us all off, just going round the room, introducing ourselves, where we're from and our roles, if that's okay. So I'll kick off. My name's Leanne. I'm KQIP QI Programme Manager. I support the Northwest and Yorkshire and Humber regions with their quality improvement, but I also support Catherine, sort of using PREM to drive improvements nationally. So if I ask Catherine to introduce herself, and then Kay.
Yeah, my name's Catherine Stannard. I'm also a KQIP Quality Improvement Programme Manager, so in the team with Leanne and Kay, and I primarily work in the Midlands region, supporting QI there, and also coordinate the National Kidney PREM programme alongside Kay and Leanne as well.
I'm Kay. I'm the KQIP Programme Officer, and well, I support on a wide range of things, but mostly everything. Yeah, mostly the national programs and specifically PREM and PREM Opt.
Thanks, Kay. So just going off my screen, Jeanette, do you want to go followed by? Is it Simon, and then Naomi? If we do that, if that's okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeanette O'Quinny-Bunny. I'm actually an occupational therapist by background, but I'm the multi-professional service lead in our area, so Herts, Beds and West Essex. So manage the social care, the psychological service and the dietitians for our renal cohort.
Thanks, Jeanette. Simon?
Oh, hi, it's Simeon, S-I-M-E-O-N, but just call me Sim because nobody gets it right.
Okay.
It's S-I-M. S-I-M. How can you go wrong with that?
Simeon. That's such a nice name. I like
Is
that.
It?
Unusual.
You try being at the school in the 1970s with
a
name like that.
Oh, bless. Oh.
It was fine. It's a long time ago. I've recovered. I'm Sim. I'm the lead nurse at Broomfield, which is Mid and South Essex.
Welcome. And Naomi.
Hi, I'm the lead nurse over at Cromer Satellite Unit in Norfolk. I work closely with Emily, who is the main Norwich lead. So yeah, I'm out at Cromer at the sunny seaside.
Oh, nice, nice. Have you got sunshine over there?
We have actually. It's very sunny today.
Fingers crossed it stays like that. So that's great. So welcome everybody. And what we want to, the function, the purpose of this meeting is really to understand the quality improvement leadership that we have sort of in the room today. And just to start you on your quality improvement journey, really, using PREM for those improvements of patient experience. So what I do ask you to do is to get your phones out. We're going to do what we call a Mentimeter, and we're just going to ask you some questions. It's very interactive. It's anonymous, so we don't know who's responded. And this helps us to understand the leadership that you have, your experience of quality improvement leadership, and just to get us to have those discussions about challenges and the benefits, if that's okay. So let me share my screen. So you can use the link and the code, or use the QR code there. Okay, are we okay to move on? Yeah. So our first question is, do you have experience of leading a quality improvement project? And we should never assume this, should we?
Sorry, I haven't answered because my I don't know why it's dropped out the hospital Wi-Fi, my first phone. I'm just trying to fix it. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. Has everybody else got the link okay? Do you want me to go back?
No, I don't use I don't have a smartphone, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I've never had one. I don't anticipate I'll ever have one.
That's okay.
I was born in the 1970s, as I've already
So was I. So was I.
The other thing, of course, is that we don't have Wi-Fi here, and that's why we had problems doing our PREM.
Okay.
It's always an issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So have you led an QI project before, Sim or Jeanette?
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you have.
So I did it with the campaign for greener healthcare, or the NHS sustainability unit. Yeah.
So I was just going to scan. Can you just pop back for 1 second?
Oh yes, sorry.
I was just scanning it and it went off.
Sorry.
It's okay. I think I should be able to link on now.
So this helps us to understand as well, when it comes to us buddying up with other units. We don't, it just helps us with that experience of quality improvement as well. So that's good. So we're sort of 50-50. I know Sim, you've led a quality improvement project, so that helps us. And the next question, what are the challenges of leading a quality improvement project? And this helps us as well, and it'll help, what are the barriers, and potentially, how can we try and remove those barriers, talk about those challenges, and try and open up that discussion. And this just comes up as a word cloud. Sim, can you think of any challenges? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here, because the whole point of this is to make this anonymous, and then I'm going and asking you to.
No, that's fine. No, I live in the dark ages. That's fine. I'm okay to talk.
We won't tell anyone.
Challenges leading a QI project: time, motivation, direction, resources, crikey, a whole bunch of things, really, depending what you're trying to do. Changing, communicating the problem, and getting people to buy in and understand why it's a problem, and how you might address the solution. So I did a dissertation on this type of thing, and it was really about sustainable healthcare, and the challenges were trying to get it adopted in areas where they didn't believe they had time to do it, or they didn't feel that they had any responsibility to do it, or they didn't feel it was productive. So it was about disconnecting with why polar bears are losing their ice on the ice caps, and coming up with some practical explanations of why we should do these things, and not distant things that people can't connect to. So it was about trying to get people to connect with the existing problem, and then extend that by trying to get them to devote time and resources, and developing an interest in it, really. And in an NHS which is riddled with firefighting and lack of strategy, really, that's a challenge. But you find solutions in your home environment, but do you find solutions in your work environment? And if you don't, how does that impact you and your patients and your team? So yeah, it's quite interesting, but quite complicated and quite
It is.
challenging, and it requires a skill set. So I did my masters. I tried not. I elected not to do the science. I elected to do the arts, and I found that doing the arts sort of addressed the people management and the skill set really. So that was quite beneficial for me.
Interesting. Yeah, and as you said as well, some you know, we've got time on there as well, and time is a big factor. And it's not time to actually do it, it's time for the headspace, isn't it? That's the challenge. You need the time to actually walk away from the desk or the, you know, or what you're facing that day, to give you that clear head. And that's what we just don't have. It's such a value, you know, a valued commodity is time. We just don't have it.
But you can align these projects to what constitutes as productive for you as well, and in the long run you might save yourself a lot of time by investing time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So as I said, it's lots of NHS leaders and managers get bogged down in a swamp of firefighting, and it's about glimpsing at the future and being proactive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes resilience as well, because along the way there's going to be other competing priorities, people wanting you to add other things into the project that you didn't initially think were going to be included, that kind of thing. You need quite a strength of character to really stick to your guns and say, this is what we set out to achieve. We're going to carry on until we've you know, reached the close of the project. It does take some resilience to keep going.
Yeah, and once you do get that engagement of your peers and your workforce and your colleagues, that engagement, you've got that high buzz, that high energy, haven't you? And then after a while, that energy sort of drops, and it's finding that resilience to maintain the energy and maintain that momentum, isn't it? And that's hard. That's the hard bit.
And I think that's where the time and energy spent at the beginning, really giving yourself a focus, a clear goal, what you want to achieve, getting the right people in the room, that pays dividends later on when it's less kind of exciting and new. But actually, you know, you've got a really good framework in place.
Yeah, one of the other things I found was, as a leader and a manager, you can get in the habit, particularly if you've come up over the years in the ranks, you can get a little bit dizzy in your role, and you can lose sight of actually what you're empowered to do. And I've found that I've been trying to influence people to do things more senior to me and haven't really got anywhere, and eventually reflected and realized there's nothing stopping me from just doing this now. And sometimes you have to pinch yourself and say, well, I am at that grade where I can do this, so why am I trying to lean on other people? Because actually it's within my gift to just get on with it. And I found that was that was an internal barrier actually. But I think if you love your patients and you love your staff, that's kind of half the battle won, I think, really. With this type of, with the motivation anyway.
It's a really good insight. Thanks, Sim, for sharing that. And you probably needed courage to actually say that. Do you know what? I have it in my gift that I can change that, and it's that courage, the courage.
Yeah, especially in an
challenge
environment,
the status quo. Yeah.
In an environment where people just want to go home and take shortcuts, and
and I think as leaders as well, it's actually reflecting on that for the people that are maybe lower than your grade, actually empowering them to change things as well within their roles, and giving everybody that kind of you know, that mindset that actually we're all part of improvement, and we can all do things, we can all have that goal to make things better.
Exactly. So that sort of leads us on to our next question, which, you know, what are the benefits of leading a quality improvement project? So when I've led a quality improvement project when I was clinical, it gave me a focus away from the clinical stuff. So it actually gave me joy, because I wasn't, you know, fighting that fire. I was taking myself away, and it gave me joy. So that's from a personal point of view. It's tough and it's challenging, but when you've got that end product, and the end results, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. Hence, that's why I'm now in this role.
So my Menti's not working. It just keeps saying attackers might be trying to steal your information from menti.com.
dear.
Oh,
Your
well,
connection
please
is
don't.
not private.
No, please don't.
I don't know why it's doing that. It's
No.
not showing me the question like it was before. I've tried
Feel
to
free to
reload
just-
it.
Yeah,
Just
feel free to share.
Just,
I can
just
I'm,
share, Jeanette. That's fine. Yeah.
I'm trying to put in, you know, points from our conversation just so we
Catherine.
can
Thank you.
store
Yeah.
it. But yeah.
Is there any benefits, Jeanette, that you think of leading a quality improvement project? We've got information, change and satisfaction.
I know certainly for dietitians and renal work can be a little bit monotonous in some ways. So just that added sort of dimension to the roles and keeping it interesting. So like staff retention and stuff has been a benefit of keeping people interested and retained when some of their work's quite repetitive. I think that's been really important.
Naomi, do you want to add anything?
I mean, I put those three just because I said I've obviously not done it before. I've done little things like internally that I've felt is, you know, I've not formally done, you know, the research into doing quality improvements and things. But I feel because we're a satellite unit sort of out in the sticks, we are left to our own devices and we're sort of, you know, less led, just let us get on with it. And sometimes you feel slightly unsupported by the rest of the trust because a lot of policies either don't apply to you or they're slightly adapted to you for your need, etc. And like we were saying, a lot of people just want to come to work and go home, and the patients just want to come here and go home. They've, you know, the motivation to have them involved in anything else can be quite difficult. And we're a very small unit, so our team is very small, and that comes with its own challenges. So yeah, I think information, you know, even if the quality improvement project doesn't end up where you thought initially was going to, I think the gathering of information must still be important to a certain degree and a certain level. You know, knowledge is power, so one would think that would help in some way.
Yeah. And it then sort of supports that team building then, doesn't it? You know, and that positivity that we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it is, you know, we do say that quality improvement is a team sport.
I know you just make sure it's captured in the notes, obviously, about see the benefits for the patient's been the most important thing. You know, hopefully that
hopefully improvement.
written that down, but
hopefully. But it also there's also benefits to the staff as well, and I think there's such a focus that it improves our patient outcomes, patient experience. Actually, you know what? There is something about improving our staff experience and our staff outcomes and their well-being as well. So it's okay to, you know, we have to, that's why we're all in this job, is to look after our patients, isn't it? But let's not forget about our staff as well. Sim, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, the thing about quality is, and it is, there's lots of literature on it. If you establish high quality in your organization, you will be more sustainable financially. Because I studied all aspects of what establishes a sustainable business, and apart from promoting good quality, if you look at all people building marketing strategies in the commercial sector, they will all tell you that if you offer high quality, people come back and they use your services again. But I think the most obviously our patients in dialysis don't have any choice. They have to come where they have to come. So that's a bit of background. But my experience is that if you are trying to if you do establish high quality, your operating costs will be lower. It's as simple as that. And that in itself gives you a lot of satisfaction as a leader, as a manager. It demonstrates good change. It will evidence and impact on the team in a positive way as well. So I always think it's foolish to ignore poor quality. There's in my role that luckily I've got enough time to cherry pick what I want to bully with. To put it in a nutshell, and we focus on poor patient experiences on an individual basis, trying to make things sustainable. And we focus on tangible products to make sure we've got the best products for the best healthcare outcomes. So yeah, I just think that there's a huge link between quality and financial sustainability, and we all know that financial sustainability is a huge problem in our business.
Yeah. It's like you put in all the effort right now for you to reap the benefit further down the line, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
I'd echo that, and I think we got some money from the East of England, the applications for QI projects, and we're doing a project at the moment. But I think part of the reason maybe it got the funding and went ahead was we were really clear about the sustainability of it, like you were just saying, but sometimes that holds you back a little bit as well. So sometimes we have some really creative ideas, and I just find with our trust, unfortunately, finance have a say in absolutely everything, from job matching to all the clinical stuff, and it has to have financial science. So I always find that that's our biggest barrier anyway, and I'd put that at the beginning. But certainly that thing about actually, I think, aligning our QI projects with something that we can continue after the project, because it's so frustrating, isn't it, when you do it and then it just gets stopped even though it's met all of its targets, it's shown that it's brilliant, and then finance just go, no, can't sustain that. Or we're looking for other funding, like we've got 2 Reiki therapists 2 days a week at the minute in our service as well, but it's all charity funded. Stuff like that anyway.
Interesting.
Do you want to come in?
Jeanette, I was just going to say, our organisation is clinically led. Do you have that concept in your trust? And if so, do you exercise it?
We've got a brilliant clinical director within our department, but the trust as a whole is financially led, I would say. I've only been here 12 months, but that's been my personal experience. We've currently got the Virginia Mason Institute in doing a big trust overhaul. You might have heard of them. They've been into various trusts to sort out the culture, essentially. So I'd like to see that change going forward. But essentially everything. So my post was a new post, but it was the merging of 2 senior manager posts into one. So they've already saved on making it 1 person post. We're kind of saying it's not quite right. We're gonna lose a few hours from our post, but we want to create a band below it, and this is the right skill mix for the patients. That person can also do clinical work. I don't do any clinical, for example, but I've just had it back today. It has to go through HR and finance. And it's like, what do they know about it, with all due respect, apart, So that's just to give you an example of why I feel it's financially led. So it'd be interesting to see if the Virginia Mason Institute we've got them here for like 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, that
That's
is
a
a long
really
time.
good opportunity.
They're from Texas. They're an American
Yeah.
company, so it's really interesting because obviously it's all private healthcare over there. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it changes. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Well, from my experience, so Leeds have had Virginia Madison in as well.
Yep.
And not that I've ever been involved with that, but I can feel the legacy because they've got a really good quality improvement culture in their unit, in the Leeds unit. But 2 years takes a long time. Culture doesn't happen overnight, does it? It's I think you will see the benefits of it eventually.
I hope
and
so.
I can only go by what I've seen in Leeds. But yeah, very, very good. Well, great opportunity.
Yeah, and our old CEO had been here for a very long time, and we've got a relatively new one who is very open, very approachable, contactable, is really focused on patient care and improvement. So I think there is that top-down thing but you know what it's like. We had a CEO for 30 years before that, the same one where everything was closed doors.
Yeah.
So it's very a big change in leadership anyway. And this afternoon I'm at a leadership live thing where a lot of leaders from across the whole trust are going to meet with our chief exec and talk about quality improvement. So hopefully it's changing.
Yeah.
But the processes in place are very financially driven. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your experiences and your insight in leadership and quality improvement. Naomi, I hope that's helped you to kind of gain that insight and understanding a little bit more. I hope that's helped you. So I really wanted to talk about just very, very quickly about our roles and expectations. So as the leads for your services, will you be actually leading these projects, or will you be supporting sort of your band 4s, band 5s? I don't even like using that word band, but your workforce, your nurses, in leading the quality improvement projects, or will you be leading the quality improvement projects?
So our current quality improvement project is led by a band 6 dietitian. There's a band 7 dietitian lead kind of supporting with that. And then we just kind of more deal with the business side of it. In my role anyway, is more the dealing with all the financial part of it, making sure we get the funds in and it all goes through properly. So certainly for my role, the kind of we have band 7s across the 3 MDT services, and they're more than capable to lead within their own departmental quality improvement. So that's how I view it, but with our support and making sure it happens. Kind of with the last one, I read the proposal by the band 6 and commented and put in things from experience to add in, and that sort of stuff. But I think it's really important for me throughout my career. I just think it's not the right word, but bottom up type patient improvement, I think is much better than top down. That's just how I feel about it. Other people might feel otherwise, but that's what I feel about it. I feel like the people that are on the ground doing the clinical contact work, they're up to date with the process policies, how things are running, more than you are, because the higher you go, the more detached you are. So I don't know, I'm just a big supporter of, I always did that when I was clinically practicing myself, and I don't know.
I think I agree. As long as it's
agree.
Supported and endorsed by the senior team, then that is where the change happens, isn't it, on the ground?
Yeah. And peer-to-peer influence is so important. So if I just say it at my level, we'll be like, oh, what's Jeanette saying that for? Whereas actually I'm not necessarily the biggest influence on the department, you know, they talk amongst themselves, and they, you know, and we know about how change happens, and it's all about people being influenced by people they want to be influenced by.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
I don't know. That's the way we're trying to run it. But as I say, we're relatively new to renal, and InPost only been here for 12 months.
And the reason why I asked this, because I've got a slide that I'm just going to share again. So bear with me. About roles and expectations, and this is like an informal contract, really. We're not going to root this out in like 6 months' time and says, well, you said you're going to do this, and it's not this at all. But it's really good to sort of set out those expectations. And Catherine and I have just had a brief discussion about the expectations of us in K-Quip and you as project lead. So that's why I asked that question, you know, are you going to be leading the project? And if it's not, you know, then perhaps we need to have another conversation with those people that are leading the project, potentially what.
So if people got projects, sorry, I'm a bit confused, because I know I'm referring to a project that's already started, and it's not actually a result from PREM, to be fair. It's just kind of something we had going on anyway.
Yeah.
But I know this is obviously PREM directed, but
PREM,
I don't know if people on the call, have they got QI projects that they've scoped out from their PREM results, or where is everyone at? I'd just be interested.
That's a really good question, and I was going to come on to that later on, but maybe
Sorry.
we can have that. No, that's okay. No, I think that's a really good.
That better, because we've always got loads of ideas in our service.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good question. So, you know, Sim, Naomi, do you have ideas?
Have you already started something, or is this just a scoping?
Yeah, this for me,
stage?
it was definitely more scoping stage. Myself and Emily in Norfolk, like, we felt a bit overwhelmed with where to start, what to do, you know, that kind of thing. So I felt as though possibly coming along to this and listening to other people's ideas might give us that little kick, because sometimes you can take on something and think, oh yeah, that's what needs doing, but it's such a big task that where does one start? And it becomes very overwhelming, and then you sort of put it off and off, don't you? So this was more of a learning experience and a scoping out and getting the feel for where we could start potentially. You know, we've got ideas flying around, but yeah, that's where we're at, really.
And Sim, have you got any ideas? Have you got something in mind?
Yep, always. Can I just share something with you on my screen, which you may find useful. Can you see anything yet?
We can see a web browser.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Cybersecurity has arrived.
Where are we? Oh. Oh, where's that gone then? Oh, here we go. So my guide for innovation is a historically old document, but I found it a bit of a Bible. The 7 dimensions of culture for innovation, essentially. And this is there is a publication online. I can send you the link, but this effectively is the model that I use.
Okay.
So these 7 dimensions here. So we've got the relationships, we've got the tools, we've got the rewards, we've got the goals, we've got the knowledge and the resources. And then this is the biggie here. This is the one that the matron or the senior leadership team needs to really take ownership of, because this risk-taking element can really stop things from progressing. So my experience is that risk-taking needs to be, there needs to be some shared ownership, and we need to be brave. So what are we doing at the moment? Well, we're we're not necessarily going to take a snapshot of what happened last June when we collect this data. We like to have continuous observation of what's happening, because when you're really in touch with and got your ear to the ground with what's going on in your department, you may well measure actually that some of the issues that were raised on the PREM have actually resolved. So, for example, transport performance is sporadic. Staff attendance is variable. The weather changes, so yeah, it's important to look at what is really impacting your outputs. And when I'm talking about outputs, I'm talking about deaths, I'm talking about survival, I'm talking about good care, I'm talking about bad care. It's about getting a grip of what you're keeping in touch with what your outputs are, and making some shared decisions about what you think as a group you can address to make an improvement. So what will we be doing? Lots of our hemodialysis patients have central venous catheters, and however much you steer people towards an arteriovenous fistula and not a central venous catheter, they will make their own mind up in the waiting room when they learn of the benefits.
Yeah.
And the benefits are that you don't have any needles, and it just might be more convenient. You don't have to wait for bleeding to stop at the end. You may not miss your transport as much. So there's lots of reasons why people make decisions. If people are going to stick with central venous catheters, then they will inevitably, as your average dialysis nurse will agree, they will have blood flow problems, so that lines will not work. So what are we doing about that? Well, we're spending a lot of money on clot busting agents, which cost a fortune. And I don't actually even believe that they're, on many occasions, that they're even necessary. So we've got a few work streams to look at why a central venous catheter doesn't work, and what alternatives we can put in place to promote more function. And certainly 2 of those things are making sure that a patient's weight is correct, and that it doesn't need a review. And the other thing is something I'm looking at the moment, which is addressing the eradication of biofilm inside the lumen. So I'm getting my hands on a new product called KiteLock, which is being used in oncology at the moment. And we are going to collect some data on patient waiting, patient experiences. Now, this is not something that was raised in PREM, that patients are hanging around waiting for their line to work. They will address it or articulate it in a different way. So you can look at your PREM as a signpost or an indication that you need to dig a little bit deeper. So if patients are waiting, what can you do about that? Well, there's 100 different things, because there's 100 different reasons why people wait. So if we address the line issue, and make people's central venous catheters more functional, we know that they will be happier people.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So that's one thing we're looking at, and we will look at other things as our sensitive staff start to understand that they do have the autonomy to change things and fix things. But as I was saying, luckily we've got a structure where we can take risks, and we can put controls in place to make sure that those risks are calculated, and that those risks are shared. And the risk element may be a reason to impede innovation and improvement, in my experience. So people might not be prepared to make that final step or that final commitment. Particularly, for example, if you've got cultural acceptance of a line lock which everyone is playing safe with, and you accept the fact that lines don't work, and we advise you not to have one, so you have to live with the consequences.
Yeah.
And next week, next month, there'll be another challenge for us. So we can share that type of
I
thing.
think that'd be really interesting. It's the patients waiting, whether it's they're waiting on their CVC lines ready to be functioning, or they're in the waiting room waiting for their space to be freed up. I think that would be a really interesting, potentially, people can adapt what it is that you do for various other patient waiting, in inverted commas.
There's 100 reasons why why the waiting room's congested. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And it's not always transport.
No.
Really interested. That'll be really interesting. I'll be interested in how that pans out. So you've shared some what you use for your methodology. So let me just share. This is our KQIP methodology, and it's based on the IHI model for improvement. So the IHI model, the IHI is an American company, and they've sort of been the pioneers, I think, for quality improvement for a very long time. And they ask in their model 3 simple questions. So what we're trying to accomplish, which is your aim. How will we know that a change and improvement is collecting data? What changes can we make that will result? So you have a big long list of change ideas, and then you can have that. And then there's this plan, do, study, act cycle change, where we can test out those changes in a very safe way. So that's what we use in KQIP. And sitting behind that is we've got these 10 steps, and there's various tools and steps that sit behind all this. But it just gives you that formula, that framework. It really helps you to go from step to step. Okay, so what is my area for improvement? Right, we know what that is. You can't change on your own. You need a team, but you need to understand, who your team are, but your stakeholders, the wider team, and how impacts understanding your problem, because in healthcare, we don't want to slap a plaster on it, do we? We really want to understand what the problem is and do those deep dives. You want to know what you're aiming for, and we provide we do that smart aim, collecting data, but we want to choose just enough. I think the value that we have of PREM is that we've got a process where we can see the impact on a yearly basis of the changes that we make. And I know Catherine's been working on a short form PREM, which is a bit more quality improvement tool that can help, because it's regular data collection, but PREM gives us a starting point. So as Sim said before, it gives us that starting point. We need to do those further deeper dives, coming up with your change ideas, and then testing them out, measuring your impact of them. So again, that's that regular data collection, and sharing your progress. So every year, we've got UK Kidney Week, haven't we? That's a great opportunity to share what you've done to improve your patient experience. So that's the methodology that we use in KQIP. And what we will be doing is we will be supporting, so understanding areas for improvement in the east of England helps us to buddy up yourselves with other people in the UK. And then when we'll bring you together and we'll help you through these steps. You may already do them, you know, Sim and Jeanette being experienced. You may already go through these steps, and you might not necessarily need that support. But yeah, so when we buddy you up, we will support you and facilitate these conversations through this methodology, this framework.
And I think what it does, Leanne, just coming in, is a lot of the time what we see is it's very easy to just jump to step 7. So people just start changing things because they kind of assume, and you know, sometimes it is the right thing that you think is, you know, that you think, oh, I've got an idea, let's just try that out. But actually, if you do go through, take a step back and just check you've got the right people in the room, you've understood your aim, what you want to achieve, it just makes sure it's sustainable beyond the project as well, and that you're bringing people along with you rather than just sort of jumping to the changes.
Thanks, Catherine.
I think that will help with like keeping us on track and our like resilience that we spoke about earlier as well.
Yeah.
Where we will get pulled into all the other day-to-day operational stuff. I think, you know, it's like you've got that meeting to almost focus to work towards. So
yeah, I haven't seen that particular. I'm doing some AHP leadership thing at the moment, and I'll have to try and get some of the resources and share them. Actually, there's some really good bits in there, but I haven't seen this particular one, but it's quite similar to.
Yeah,
so it's
I
probably
think yeah. I mean, there's an NHS model for change, and that's got how many dimensions? That's got in it 9 dimensions, and we all pretty much say the same thing. You know, what is it we want to achieve? We need to collect data, and you need to make changes. I'm probably being really ignorant and making that really, really simple, but that's what quality improvement is. For me, quality improvement can be a simple process, and yeah, we can change big transformation, change the culture, but actually patient experience is about that one little thing. So changing a small thing could be a big thing for that patient and our patients, can't it? So it doesn't need to be transformational. It can be a really small change that we make.
And just on the measures as well, Leanne, just briefly, because obviously the PREM is collected every year. It's got 39 questions in it. That's great. But if you wanted to specifically focus on an area of experience, say, for example, you wanted to focus on patient communication or something like that, you can just take the items of the PREM that are under that theme and ask patients those questions just internally on a more regular basis if that's the area that you're aiming to improve. There's nothing to stop you just using those sub-themes. Those questions have been validated, they've been developed with patients, professionals. So yeah, the actual PREM standalone themes can be used as well, if that would be.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Catherine. So I suppose the next steps for us, you know, we're still in the process of finding out who's doing what across the UK. So you know, we've got the Northwest next week, Midlands, Southeast. So you know, we're still in that process with all the regions. Once we understand who's doing what in area, we'll try and buddy people up as best we can with those themes. And we'll set, you know, and we'll set up these action learning sets where you can actually learn and shoot, just very similar to what the conversations we've had today. Learning and sharing.
And that document, Leanne, that was shared in advance of the meeting, the kind of project brief, is really a kind of framework that you can use as well. It sits behind those 10 steps, so you can just use it as a kind of guide as to when you're planning your project, what area you want to improve. I would urge you to go to that document and just try and fill it in with your team, so you've got basically a really good framework to go forward with, and share that with us as well, because that gives us a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve and means we can tell other people about it and link people up with you about it as well.
Thanks, Catherine. So got 5 minutes to go. Does anybody have any, excuse me, does anybody have any questions or?
This might be very silly and
No,
ignorant of me.
I'll stop
Nothing
you right
silly.
there. I'll stop you right there. There is no such thing as a silly question. There's only silly answers.
It's more of a passing it by for your opinions and ideas. I feel as though potentially looking at that methodology, we are already trying to put something in place that may work as a quality improvement project. I wasn't doing it formally. It was just a case of we had seen that patients were having issues with their buttonholes and staff were feeling a bit, shall we say, I don't know, well, I guess nervous about doing them. And I've come from an acute unit, so I've only been here for 9 months. So coming from the acute unit where you just have to learn to juggle all the types of skills that you don't know who's going to come through the door, to coming out here and having obviously the same group of patients over and over again. I felt when I came out here, the culture was that there was only a handful of staff who were allowed, shall we say, to buttonhole these patients, and I found that very strange. That there was nothing in place that was preventing all my other staff members from providing this care, and skills wise they were more than capable. But I think that culture obviously has been embedded for quite a while, that it's just become the norm. So after consulting with a few people about their confidence in buttonholes and even the patients not feeling confident with certain members of staff using their buttonholes because they'd not used them before, we tried to reinstate cannulation maps and discussed it with our access nurses, etc., etc. And I didn't think of it in a formal way, but I'm wondering now that I've started to put it in place, and obviously looking at the methodology, whether that is something that could be applied as a QI project to obviously improve patient confidence in our staff and the staff confidence in their own abilities. What does anyone think that that's suitable, or do you think that's just not really relevant?
I think it's really relevant. I think, yeah, absolutely. Improving patient confidence, getting patients involved in their care, definitely. Staff confidence, you want your staff to come to work and to not dread it, do you? You want them to come and be happy, and empower them. I think that's a really nice little project. And there is actually a national project called MAGIC, which is managing access and cannulation, and it sits on the AN UK website.
Okay.
I think, Kay, have I got that right? No.
It's actually on the UKKA Education Hub, and I will grab the link for you and stick it in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks,
It would be
Kay.
helpful,
Thank
I think.
you.
And also, Naomi, that it's not, I don't think it's been published yet, but they are looking at developing, there is a needling PREM being developed, which is actually specifically a longer questionnaire for patients about their experience of needling. And so that might be something as well we could link you in with, because and from their research they have, it's so much about from the moment that nurse comes up to the patient, are they smiling, do they check in with them before going ahead, there's so much within that needling process that can be improved and shared and learnt about across the workforce, but with the patients as well. So I think it would be an amazing project to apply to this and then share with I'm with no doubt there'll be a needling action learning set, because it's such a big part of dialysis patients' experience.
Yeah, and our patient group is extremely elderly, and it's almost a case of, oh well, they're too old to do it themselves and they don't know what's going on, and it was a very stagnant culture, I felt, when I came out here coming from an acute trust. So I've obviously had to pick my battles and take my time. And personally, I love change. I love improvement. I don't, researching and things like that. That really interests me. So I've had a lot to get my teeth into, but I think I've always done it in an informal manner. I've not actually followed a methodology. I've just probably gone way too gun-ho happy and done it, and no doubt it's backfired in the past on me when I've tried to do things. So obviously following a methodology would be better. But yeah, it's it when people were talking, I felt like that could apply. So that's great. Thank you for that.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to say before we finish? So we'll be in touch. Like I say, Catherine and Kay and myself will do a mapping exercise once we've done all the regions, and we'll be in touch, and we'll introduce you to various people and up and down the UK.
We're hoping to really generate this idea of improvement to patient experience and link it back to sort of just close that loop. So it's not just reporting on the data each year, but actually sharing what's going on. And it, as you say, Sim, it doesn't have to be directly related to the PREM itself, but if that can inspire, you know, oh, maybe we should just ask our patients a bit more about this, and then there's certain projects underneath that we can begin to share and talk about. That's the idea.
Exactly.
Great. So thanks for joining.
Thank you. Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep in
Thanks
touch.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.